I'm going to call this meeting of February 22nd, 2022 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone on this Tuesday. We have the agenda before us. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions from the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will be as in print, and that takes us to unfinished business.
Thank you. I have a resolution before the board in unfinished business to amend Resolution 22-066 in regards to the Ohio Township Association's Winter Conference. It's just correcting some funds.
I will move on unfinished business number 1.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2, we have Mr. Cheney from the Canton Hall of Fame Marathon here to talk to the board about the upcoming marathon. And if you could give your address for the record.
You bet. My home address?
No.
No, do your business address.
Business, yep. So the company is Run To You Racing. It is at 132 5th Street Northwest in downtown Canton, so Canton, Ohio 44702. And I'm just going to put a stack here and can pass them around. Thank you for letting me speak to the board. Run To You Racing is the event management company that produces the Canton Hall of Fame Marathon, formerly known as the Pro Football Hall of Fame Marathon. We've changed names this year to give us a little bit wider wingspan in involving the community. We produce a lot of races. We are scheduled to run on Sunday, April 24th. This will be our 9th running, believe it or not. The course is all over the community, so we run a little bit in downtown Canton, we come out of Plain Township, a little bit in Canton Township. Specifically for tonight, what you have in front of you here is the map of the township portion. It's basically miles 3 to 12 is where we'll be in the township. We are working with the Sheriff Department and roads and all the appropriate parties to make sure that we've got coverage as we have over the last few years. As the notes in front of you say, it's an out and back course, so we will be covering the entirety of the road. Just like you're driving a car, runners will be staying on the right-hand side going out, and then the runners will be coming back. This year we're going to do something a little bit different. In the past we've always done neighborhood notifications where we put letters in all the residents. We're going to do door hangers. And so you have a little visual here of what the door hanger will look like. It gives us a little more flexibility to not only hit the roads on the route, but all the adjacent streets. So we're ordering about 5,000 of those. They'll go out roughly 10 days, 2 weeks beforehand, directing residents to contact me at the Marathon office. First runner, we have a relatively small window. First runner will come across Broad at 17th at 7:20 a.m. And then the last person exiting that portion of the course will be at about 10:40 in the morning. The remainder of the marathon race goes into downtown and into the parks and then returns to the stadium for the finish. What we did last year, it seemed to work. We'll have a little heavier presence in the township as far as on every turn. We generally have 3 cones that are put out as the runners approach, so they have to go around the cones, again, as if they're driving a car. And we will have volunteers at every one of those turns. Beyond that, obviously, we will work with Sheriff Department and follow their lead as far as, hey, we need officers here, here, and here. We need cars here, here, and here, and whatever the case is. So that's it in a nutshell. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of what was happening, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
What's the easiest part of the course to run? I want to know because I'm running a relay leg of it.
Yeah, it's actually
flat.
It
Yeah,
is
that's where I want to
actually
know
on
where
this.
it's
It is
flat.
actually on this map. So we cut out a lot of the hills back in the Avondale area. So we're not going back and forth on 21st and 22nd. We're not going up
thing I'll just comment, I mean, having been in the very front end of this, from the first time to now, I mean, this is just smooth as silk, honestly, with how things are operating. I think, yeah, there was really the growing pain the first couple of years, just because, what are you doing shutting down my, area? And it's not as bad as folks make it. And I can tell you, within the last half dozen years, if I told you I got 2 calls, I'd probably be pushing it. So
I know my calls have gone down.
yeah, I think it speaks volumes to
The door hangers are gonna be huge, those
Yeah.
letters that went out, those are huge.
Yeah.
A lot of people pay attention to that, they realize, hey, the race is coming by here, I have somewhere to go, I'm parking my car over there, so I can walk over and get it, and I don't have to worry about pulling out.
Well, that's just
That type
it.
of thing.
And we don't want to prevent people from
Yeah.
going to church or whatever they do on Sundays, so they typically contact us in advance, and I just give them sort of the hot routes out. But we do have runners coming from 48 states. We're missing Idaho and Maine, and I'm working feverishly to fill those spots.
Shocking, those are the 2 states you're missing.
Yeah, and it is, yeah, Alaska and Hawaii, no problem.
Wow.
Idaho and Maine. It's a good opportunity to show, one of the reasons that we changed the name, quite frankly, was love the museum, love pro football, but we really have a Hall of Fame community, Hall of Fame neighborhoods, Hall of Fame restaurants, Hall of Fame hotels, and so that's really what the emphasis is going to be on moving forward. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
thank you, I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to number 2.
Yes, item number 2 is a resolution to enter into the attached agreement with Soul Harris Day Architecture for the Plain Township Amphitheater located behind us, and to authorize myself as a designated coordinator for Plain Township to enter into the contract.
So moved. Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harris?
Yes. Thank you, and that's the end of new business.
Thanks, that takes us to the fiscal officer's report. Tom?
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $83,058.57.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved. Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the investment report.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, check with Tom. Next.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is a resolution to amend the payment amount of resolution 22-060 from $38,466 to $6,551 for calendar year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a resolution to authorize the payment in an amount not to exceed $7,867.51 to be taken from 1000-110-500-0000 to reimburse the Canton Municipal Court for Plain Township's proportional share of the operating costs.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. Thanks, Tom. That
Thanks.
takes us to the administrator.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize payment to Canton Data Print for the spring 2022 newsletter.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that's the end of the administrative
Thanks,
report.
Lisa. That takes us to Fire Chief Schallenberger.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment for bench testing of Draeger and Genesis equipment to Howell Rescue Equipment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion,
You've already had those graders a year, is it?
Yeah, it was just earlier.
yeah. So you want to explain that a little bit about how you're like moving both of those so you get the testing?
One of the reasons why we switched that was the same company does our equipment for Genesis, does our Traeger pack, so it's a little bit cheaper to have the technicians come out and do one service call, saves $500 or $600, and then the same guys are looking at all the parts at one time, so it's a little more cost effective.
Perfect. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment for one smoke ejector fan to Warren Fire, not to exceed $4,800.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Turnouts LLC for advanced cleaning of turnout gear, reference call 22617, that was exposed to hydraulic oil and not to exceed $3,500.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes fire department.
Thanks, Chief. That takes us to road. JP.
Thank you,
You don't
Mr.
have
Chair.
a PowerPoint program.
No, not part 2. Road item number 1 on the agenda is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to direct the Plain Township Highway Superintendent to place an advertisement for the 2022 paving and road repair project in the newspaper published in Stark County in general circulation of the township on March 10th, March 17th, and in the repository with bids to be received on the day of March 24th, 2022 by 1:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? We're getting out early again.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep, earlier the better.
Yes.
Item number 2.
Let's do roll call first. Roll call. We gotta
Mr.
make sure
Hawes?
it passes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yeah, okay.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. Now you can do number 2.
All right, number 2, we're going to follow up again. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to direct the Plain Township Highway Superintendent to place an advertisement for bids for road materials in the newspaper published in the Stark County in general circulation of the township on March 24th and 31st, 2022, and in the repository with bids to be received on the day of April 14th, 2022 by 12:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
All right, item number 3, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Northern Mobile Electric for the repair of the pond lift station water pump located on Hunting Valley. Parts and labor not to exceed $8,665.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
All right, last item for road, item number 4, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize service and payment to Endors Harvest and Rope Supply for the custom training class on tree felling, chainsaw, and chipper safety, not to exceed $4,500, divided between road and parks from the funds below.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
That concludes road.
Thanks, JP. That takes us to zoning. Mr. Ferrara.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to set a hearing date to consider the Board of Zoning Commission's recommendation for a zone change for parcel number 5200573 from RR to B2 zone classification. The hearing will be set for next trustee meeting, which will take place March 8th, 2022, at 6:15 p.m.
So in short, or also move.
And I'll second for discussion.
Right exactly is parcel 5200573. Where are we talking at?
Sorry, I don't have the exact address. It is on Columbus and,
Is this Suarez's business?
What's the parcel number again? 52 what?
00573.
00.
573.
573. That is slow. It's vacant, and it's off of Columbus Road.
The
And
property
that's
next
the
door.
property, yeah, that's this long strip right here, off of Columbus Road.
The back
Across
portion is
from,
RR, rural residential.
yeah,
Front portion
so
is
it's up by post, where postage used to be. It's up in that general area. It's across from where the old
Is that our?
golf course.
No, that's
So
B2.
That's
That's
our
what this
front
is
side.
right here.
Yeah.
B2. Yeah, it's already
This
B2 in the front.
This was.
Yeah,
The
this
company-
doesn't show what it's zoned, this only shows,
Well, the backs are the fronts B2.
Yeah. The SCI Property Management owns that building on the corner. They just expanded and put a building in the back of their property. Now they're looking at the possibility of expanding more, but they need to make that property next door, which they own, all B2, to be able to expand.
so they're wanting to expand to the east.
Yes.
But there's only one residential home in between it.
That is, yeah, correct, that's that one, right there. Yeah,
Obviously, you can't, it's too close, too close.
okay. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that's all for zoning.
Thanks, Tom. That takes us to parks. You have nothing tonight?
Nothing tonight.
All right, and then we go to the law director.
Yes, sir. Just one informational on the agenda tonight regarding short-term rentals. I've had discussion with some of you about these, but I wanted to make you aware of House Bill 563 that has at least been introduced. It's early on in the process. Essentially, what I keep saying is that these VRBOs and Airbnbs must have a strong lobby somewhere, because this legislation is essentially handcuffing us and our ability to do much, if anything, with them at this point, as introduced. And we already have our kind of first salvo at regulating these in the works. You sent that to zoning commission the last meeting, I think. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah. And so when I talked to Tom about it, I said, we'll just keep that kind of in the works because we don't know what's going to happen with this. I do know that Trustee Hawes has spoken with one of our Columbus representatives, so he can tell you a little bit about that conversation if he wants to, too.
Short version is if we have rules already on the books that are enforceable, even if this passes after, as it's currently written, there's nothing that we can do to discriminate or treat them differently. So we say, oh, short-term rentals, industrial only, not gonna fly, because we don't do that to long-term rentals. Some conversation around how many days what constitutes it. The committee would be willing to hear and take our feedback. So I really think between department heads and anything that the board has, we need to get in writing and we need to get it down to them by the end of this week, the beginning of next week, just to jump on it, because it's already been a week. Conversation.
There's some confusion with this. And obviously, we restrict where a hotel can be. And when you read the introduction to this, as it starts describing what are these businesses that fall under this, hotels are included in that. That paragraph takes in a whole bunch of stuff. So are they saying that we can't even say where a hotel can go?
I think the intent is to get government, local government anyway, to be hands-off with the VRBO Airbnb.
Exactly.
I agree with you that it's not exactly well-written, but it is the first shot. The first shot's usually not very well-written.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things we're gonna have to, we'll get our stuff in, as Scott suggested, and then we've got to follow the process pretty closely just to see kind of where they take this.
Yeah, they're not even talking about
Yeah.
any future platforms on how local jurisdictions would be
Right.
notified in the
Yeah.
critical subdivisions. And, you know, okay, well, if you're gonna regulate and take our, we wanna know where they're at, and then,
I think the
again,
bed tax.
Well, that's the thing, I think that one of the things that has to go in here for local government's sake is, okay, if this is that important to our legislature, that they come out and say, you can't discriminate, you gotta treat everybody the same, fine, then they're getting a bed tax. Just like any other rental of that ilk would get. And I also think it's a little bit blind, but probably on purpose, with regard to the reality of the problems that political subdivisions are seeing with these rentals. Like the things that we've had with our sheriff's office and people coming in and talking about. It kind of turns a blind eye to that, in my humble opinion. So we may want to get those kinds of things referenced in our salvo to the legislature.
I can also email Marissa Myers our concerns, and at some point she may ask for some testimony that maybe we'd want to be involved in.
Yeah, I'd want to know a little bit more about the background, because just from me reading, I mean, it includes cabins and when you think about all the Hocking Hills and Mohican and all those places, and I know every time we stay at Hocking Hills, I pay a bed tax.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, would that eliminate all of that?
I don't think so.
I don't think. But if they don't tell us where they're at, we're not gonna know to be
Correct.
having them fill out the form and sending us bed tax. We have to know they exist, where.
Well, even if we do get a complaint, we know where they're at, what nights are they busy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a nightmare for these guys.
As
far as These are basically moving hotspots of whatever activity they're trying to haul in.
Just continue to move forward.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on that?
no.
That takes us to communications.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a thank you to myself and the board from Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health, thanking us for being a donation drop-off center for their winter giving tree campaign. We collected a lot of warm items that they could then distribute, and they really appreciated that support and partnership. Item number 2, I was here when it arrived. I was able to give it to Captain Carver, and it was a beautiful, like, men in blue statue, and Lori, who sent it, wrote a very gracious thank you letter stating her son served in the country before 9/11, and her second son served our country after 9/11, and she is just, thankful that they both came home, and she's saying, may God keep and protect all of those who serve, and that was just lovely. So, and then the last one, or I don't think it is the last, nope, thank you to the road department. This one's very nice. It was sent to Scott and said I wanted to send out an email to say thank you for those responsible for handling our Plain Township roads. The last couple of weeks gave us a winter of 78 snow event. The 2 heavy snowfalls and the day's sleet created a lot of issues for our roads. After all the heavy snow was over, his wife commented that their mailbox post appeared to be leaning. He noted it, chalked it up with all the heavy snow, and made a note that he would replace the mailbox to his honey-do list. His wife noticed the road crew next door replacing a mailbox, so she called the office, spoke to Teresa, and she called him back and said that they would be out to assess and replace the mailbox, and they thought this would happen way down the road, but it was replaced in no time. He says, I imagine in our current anxious times that working the road crew can be a thankless job. I'm not even certain who to turn in order to say thank you. Please let somebody know that Janet and I appreciate them and their dedication. Thank you also for the quick response with the mailbox that never even made it to his list. All we knew 23 years ago was that the house we bought met our needs to plan a family, and Plain Township has been a wonderful place to raise that family because people here take time to care. That was just wonderful.
Very good.
And then the last one is just awesome. It is, you can't tell on here, but it was lightly colored, And you can see that a child wrote this to the fire department, just saying thank you for what you do. And I know that Chief and his team do a lot over there when they do the tours, and it's just great work. And that's a very sweet thank you. And that's the end of communications.
Good, thank you. And that takes us to public speaks. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board at this time? No one? All right, let's move to concerns of trustees, the Vietnam War Veterans Day ceremony.
I just asked it, I asked it to be added so the public's aware. Should we, you know, in Plain Township Vietnam War era veterans, extend them an invite to the event, March 27th, 1 to 3 p.m. out at Maslin, Washington High School. As far as just being able to attend, we asked that they reach out to Dana Stilianos, the outreach manager. They just wanted an RSVP so they can plan accordingly for the programming. That's all I have.
Is that okay if we put that on Facebook?
Yeah, I'd
Promote
say
it?
so. Let's, you know, put it wherever we can do social
Perfect.
Just
media.
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
piece,
yep.
not-
Yeah, not the first one, yeah.
All right, that takes us to approval of the minutes. We have two. First is for January 25th, and I'll so move on that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
And
I'll move on the approval of minutes for February 8th,
second.
2022.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
And we do have a need for an executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:27 from this regular meeting of 2/22/22, as authorized under the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of the consideration of 1A, appointment of public employee or official, 1B, employment of a public employee or official, 1D, discipline of a public employee or official, 1E, promotion or demotion of a public employee or official, and number 3, a conference with the law director or other retained counsel concerning pending or imminent court action.
So did you add 7?
Yes, 7, and also,
You don't need to read it, just.
should I also
A or B?
do 4? Are we gonna?
I don't think we're
Okay.
going to. Yeah,
No,
no. I think 7's good.
So, and I will add 7, A and B. And I will,
Second.
okay. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.